Greetings, everyone, and thank you for attending Trident Academy's webinar on oil and gas solution developed by Panduit. Today, Henk, Nouwen, and Fred Kalb, Senior Business Development Managers at Panduit, will be joining us to tackle the mentioned topic, including identification of solutions for harsh environment, Panduit Cable Cleat Solutions, the LOTO process to control energy hazards, Panduit's VeriSafe AVT, average voltage tester, the first of its kind voltage tester. I'm Shaima Faye, Inside Sales Representative at Trident, and I will be moderating this session today. The webinar will be starting shortly. You don't have to worry about your microphones or webcams, those are disabled for you. We will make sure all your questions will be answered at the end of the session, but please do get those entered in the Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen in the control panel, as some questions may get lost in the chat. Now, without further delay, I will leave the stage to Henk.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Panduit, I would like to thank the whole Trident team for giving us the opportunity to speak about the Panduit solutions. And without further ado, we will start. As you know that Shaima presented the agenda, I would like to start a little bit about telling where Panduit comes from. We are an American company, and the name Panduit basically comes from our founder, Mr. Caveney, who was working in the past with General Electric. He was working on solutions to provide a better way to route the cables into the cabinets. So he was working a lot in these panels and looking for a way to replace the whole installation of the cables with a good system, the conduit of the cable. So basically that's where the name Panduit comes from. So the power of Panduit, we focus on 5 market segments. On the electrical side, we focus on industrial construction and maintenance and repair operation, mainly focused into the oil and gas market, shipbuilding, aviation. On the OEM side, the original equipment manufacturing, our second pillar or second segment in the electrical market, we look at original equipment manufacturers to see how we can provide the best solutions to route, to bundle, and to protect cables. On the other hand, we also have a huge variety of solutions for the enterprise and data centers, talking about cabinets, outlets, copper, fiber, all types of solutions for this market. And industrial automation is a kind of crossover between those segments. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit about cable cleats because it's very important, not only as I said before, when we speak about the electrical market, but also for the data center market. Whenever you install an electrical cable, you have to wonder, is there any risk for a short circuit event? And if there is, you should think about securing that cable to protect it in case of a short circuit event. Now, Panduit uses the IEC 61914-2015 standard to make sure that all the cable cleats we provide into the markets are in line with this standard. Speaking about a cable cleat, what is a cable cleat? It's a device designed to provide securing of cables when installed at intervals along the length of cables. This is basically the definition. Now, there are 2 important things. First of all, you need to secure the cables with a device, but also you need to respect the intervals to make sure that your cables are secured in a good way. So speaking about the different type of markets, as said before, whenever you're installing a cable, think about the risk of a short circuit event. And as you see here, we look at infrastructure, we look at renewable energy, we look at data centers. And again, here it is very important to secure these cables. I will show you later what can happen in case of a short circuit event, what the devastating impact can be. But again, think about when you install a cable to make sure that it is secured. Now, in a lot of cases, we always think about this when we look at a new project, speaking about a greenfield. For a data center, it's pretty easy because you see in a lot of specifications that it's already defined in there that you should secure the cables in case of a short circuit event, according to the IEC 61914 standard. But there's also a very high risk if you look at existing infrastructures, existing facilities, existing data centers. The pictures you see here on the bottom right is actually taken at an installation where you will see that the cables are installed with a nylon cable tie. Now, in case of a short circuit event, this will have no effect at all. What is the impact actually? How often does it happen? It's just like a fire in your house. You have an insurance, but probably you will never need to use it. The devices to secure the cables in case of a short circuit event are purely there in case it does happen. And as you see here, if it does happen, the impact is huge. It's not only to your equipment, but also to people, to your staff who are walking around in that area. It can be hurting these people, but it can even go as bad as killing them. So you really want to make sure that you install the cables in a correct way. Now we can speak a lot about what a short circuit event is, but it's sometimes better just to show what happens in case of a short circuit event. Now what you see here, and also on the next slide, is what happens in case of a short circuit event. You see the forces are enormous. And as said before, you need to make sure you install a calculated solution. This is a test phase on a rig of about 4 meters. And as you see here, if a short circuit event happens, the cables will fly out. Now, this is a setup of 3 single core cables. And we often get the questions from our customers, does this also happen with a multi-core cable, even if it's an armored one? Now, the next slide will show you what happens in case of a multi-core. You see here this multi-core, and please keep in mind, all you see here happens in less than 1 second. So what you see here is that the complete security of the cable, it completely devastates the whole area. So it's not only the ladder rack, it's the cables. So can you imagine that this happens, cables that are set out for 20 meters, 50 meters, it is really, really bad for your complete environment. So again, here, if you look at this and you see the devastating effect of a short circuit event, you really have to consider all the cables that you are going to put out in the future or that you have already installed in the past. Did we secure them in case of a short circuit event? Now, how did Panduit approach this market? What you can basically do is you can do a test with each and every diameter of cable that you have, go to a test facility and test it, then you look at the results. What Panduit actually did is we created with ANSYS software, a simulation program, first to test what happens in case of a short circuit event. I'll go back to this. Because in case that short circuit event happens, you really want to make sure, as said before, that for all the types of cables that you install, you do this according to a spec. Now, every country in the past had their own regulation. You see regulations from the UK, you see regulations from Germany, you see regulations from France here on the bottom. What the IEC standard basically does is it combines all of the necessities that you need to install a secure cable for a short circuit event, and it's all been covered with the IEC regulation. Now, what we basically did then is we went again to a test facility with the results of our simulation software, and we went to test it again. Now, what you see here is then also a short circuit event, but this is the way it is supposed to be. You'll see that the cables are moving on the cable tray, but they're staying on the ladder. And this is what you need to make sure of. Also here, you will see that our verification, the testing that we did from our simulation program, it shows that the cable will stay in place on a short circuit event. Here you see this last one was a test of our polymer solutions that we also present into the market. The cables will move because the forces are so high. You just want to make sure that they are secured to the ladder and that they don't fly out. Now, as said before, it can also happen that our simulation program said that if the forces are so high that it will still go wrong. You will see here an example of an aluminum trefoil setup and also a polymer trefoil setup. If the simulation software said that the forces are too high, you will see that it can still go wrong. Again, here, it's not because you secure your cables with a cable cleat that it's also valid in case of a short circuit event. That's why we always promote a calculated solution with a maximum peak current for each and every installation that you do. Now, there are different types of solutions. Already for years, Panduit is promoting a double loop stainless steel cable tie. There are 2 different types. The one on the right is with a bolt locking head. The one on the left is with a buckle strap. These are solutions that we've been sending into the market for years now. But the big advantage versus a traditional stainless steel cable cleat is the installation speed. It is the total cost of ownership when you look at the project is much lower when you install a double loop cable tie. Plus also you will see here on these pictures that the double loop stainless steel cable ties are installed with a cushion sleeve for extra protection and also with a bracket to the ladder rack. There's also a big advantage if you can work directly through the rungs of the ladder. It means you do not need to bracket, but it is very safe, very fast to install these double loop stainless steel cable ties. Now, why is there still a difference between the one you see on the right and the one you see on the left? It all has to do with the maximum peak current that happens in case of a short circuit event. Up to 78 kA, you can use the solutions on the right, the one with the ball locking head. Everything above that, you will need to use the solution on the left. It's the MS strapping. Now, please keep in mind that, as said before, we always work with a calculated solution. So how to select those, we will go through that in a bit. So as said before, it comes down to the outside diameter of the cable. So in a lot of cases, if you work on a project, we often see that people send us what the core of a single cable, for example, is. But what you basically need is the outside diameter of the cable, and this combined with the maximum peak current to make the right decision on which type of solution you're going to install. As you see on the left here, these are the MLTs. These are metal locking ties in a double loop. And depending, of course, on the maximum peak current, we will define what the right solution is. Also, the MS, the one you see on the right, is limited. This means that up to 188 kA, you can still install these, but everything above this, you will then again need to go to the traditional stainless steel cable cleats. To install these, you always take a look, of course, as said before, the outside diameter of the cable, the maximum peak current, but it also depends on what type of ladder that you use. Now, for each type of ladder, whether it's galvanized, stainless steel, aluminum, we have a specific solution and also the different brackets that you need to install on the rungs of your ladder to fix the cable cleats to it. You also need to use the right tools. Again, this is very important. If you're installing a double loop stainless steel cable tie, you want to make sure it's installed in the right way and that it's also cut off in the right way, because if you do it with a different tool, you may have the risk that you have sharp edges. So please be informed that whenever you do the installation, of course, depending on what type of cable tie you install, for the ball locking head, you have the RT2HT. Hand tool. We also have the battery tool, the PBTMT. If you install the MS strapping, you will need the BT2HTI, the tool on the bottom. Now, if you still are convinced that you need to use a stainless steel cable cleat, we also provide these solutions into the market now. The big benefit of ours is, as said before, if you're looking at a Greenfield or a Brownfield, if the cables are already installed into the facility, our cable cleat shows that it's very easy to open it, to take 3 cables. In this case, this is a trefoil setup, and still slide the bracket under it when the cable cleat is on top of the rung. In a lot of cases, you will also find that you have different types of outside diameters. There is a spacer on the bottom that you can actually take out. So with one cable cleat, you can use a lot of different type of cables. And you will also notice that the bolt and the screw that you see on the top right, you can take them out, but the bolt will not fall out. This is very important if you do an installation way up somewhere on the ladder and you don't want these parts to fall down. This is the same for the bracket. There are no loose pieces. So again, here it's a swing bolt. If you install it, it also secures back into the bracket. Again, to prevent if a short circuit event happens, that this bracket will come loose from the ladder rack. So depending on the installation you would like to do, you have on the top left, the stainless steel cable cleats. You have for a trefoil setup, you have the aluminum one and the polymer. Again, all depending on the outside diameters, as you see on the spreadsheet below. But also for the single cables, we have a huge variety of single for single cables in a 2-hole and in a 1-hole cable cleat, all depending, of course, on the diameter of the cable and the maximum peak current. Now, how do you actually define what is the right solution for you? There are different approaches to this. First of all, what you had to do in the past is you needed 3 inputs, the outside diameter and the maximum peak current. If you also know the spacing between the cleats, it was good. But previously, always had to go to your manufacturer, request what type of cable cleats you needed to install, and you would get the answer. There is a free app that is available that actually you can download it on your phone, and you actually just put in the outside diameter and the maximum peak current, and the app will give you the exact cable cleat plus also the spacing. Here's an example of a cable, for example, of 55 outside diameter and a maximum peak current of 160 kA. It will tell you exactly what type of cable cleats that you can use and also the spacing. There's all the information, all the specs of each and every cable cleat in it. But we've also noticed in the past that a lot of customers like this app, but you cannot download any information from it. That's why we also would like to present a web application. The big advantage of the web application is you fill in the same data. On the example we show here, you see on the top bottom of the top of the spreadsheet, you will see there's a cable with a diameter of 45 millimeters, and the maximum peak current in this test is 55 kA. On the left, it will show you all the different types of cable cleats you can use for this installation. And if you move to the right, you will see the spacing. It's a little bit small, but you can see in the yellow box that there is the spacing, the current at 300 millimeters, and you will see here L1 and L2. This means that we tested all of our solutions for 1 short circuit event and 2 short circuit event. That's what the level 1 and the level 2 means. But please keep in mind this will give you a very good starting point to have a discussion either with your engineers or even with your customers to go over the different type of solutions that you can install for this installation. And then looking at the total cost of ownership, you can really save a lot of money if you're able to install, for example, a double loop stainless steel cable tie versus a stainless steel cleat. Because the cost of a stainless steel cleat is much higher than a double loop stainless steel cable tie. Of course, it has its limits, but this shows a very good overview. We also provide this now in a PDF. Again, here you can make the decision whether you need the Excel sheet or the PDF. And as said before, here we took the example of a cable with an outside diameter of 600 millimeters and a peak current of 80 kA. There are 5 different types of solutions that you can use then. In this case, it only shows the first 3, but you can imagine that there's also on the second page, you will see then the polymer and the aluminum solution. But again, this shows that for this installation, you can use a stainless steel cable cleat, you can use an MS strapping and an MLT double loop stainless steel cable tie. Again, it all comes down to the spacing because you have to secure this cable, as said before, with the correct spacing. So here you can again have a good discussion on what different type of solutions you can use. And also keep in mind that for each of the solutions that you see here, we have a test report in line with the IEC 61914 standard that we can also share with you if you need that. So we have a lot of information that we can share with you. As said before, not only the web application, but also we have a nice brochure that explains all the different types of solutions. We have white papers, we have all types of data sheets. We have an ebook that again explains why there is a need for cable cleats for short circuit protection. And again, in most of the cases, you will see you're working on a project and that's when the questions will come. So basically, this is one of the most important slides. How can we support you? The thing is that it used to be easier to travel. Then it was banned, of course, the whole COVID situation, but now we are allowed to travel again and be able to support you on site with all the questions that you have. The pictures that you see here are from an actual site. It was a big data center in Germany that we supported, where the question came from the engineers for a stainless steel cleat. We went there and we showed them the double loop stainless steel solutions, and we actually did a hands-on training with the engineers, because the question that they had is, They needed to install a single cable. They needed to install the cables in a trefoil layout and in a quad layout. Now, as you can see on the picture on the bottom right, with one solution, they could install all of them, which makes it, of course, much easier for the people who have to install all these cables on site, that you're not walking around with a whole box of different type of solutions. And each time you have to think, what is the solutions that we need now? You can also see on these pictures that in this case, we were able to work directly through the rungs of the ladder to make sure that the cable was secured. And as you can see here with the cushion sleeve, a single cable, a trefoil and a quad layout. And it had a big impact on the total cost of ownership for the whole project. But again, here, reach out to us via Trident, reach out to us via cleat@panduit.com, and we'll be more than happy to support you with each and every project that you're working on. The next solution I would like to present, when you install cables, of course, there's always a need for identification. There is no use when you install a cable in the industry and you're not marking it. Now, Panduit has a different range of solutions to provide, but in the harsh environment, it is very important that you secure the cables, first of all, with a cable cleat to protect it in case of a short circuit event. On the other hand, you also want to identify the cable. Now, if you identify the cable, Panduit offers a very nice solution. It's called Permanent Identification Solutions, where we have an embossing system that allows you to emboss your information on a marker plate. Again, here, once you did this, you also want to attach it to the cable, never ever with a nylon cable tie, but always with a stainless steel solution. What you see here is an example of a marker plate that we emboss with our embossing system. It is very easy to do this on a manual way, but you can also import a lot of data from an Excel sheet and upload it into our software and then start making all these marker plates. Now, imagine you have to work on a refinery, that you work on an oil and gas plant. A lot of these marker plates, first of all, need to be installed. There's a lot of information that has to go on there, and it takes a lot of time to install these. So you need to make sure that when you do this, the solution is also permanent. Now, our embosser system allows to use marker plates, either it is in a 304 stainless steel or in a 316 stainless steel, depending on your application. For the harsh environment, we always recommend to use the 316 stainless steel. You also see that the height of the information that is embossed here is 5 millimeter, but our system also allows you to put 3 millimeter on it with the same system. And this is very unique into the industry. So it means that you can put a lot of information on there to make sure that if you look at a cable and you need to identify it, that all the information is on the stainless steel marker plate. Now, there are different types you can do. If you're out in the field, you can use a hand tool to create these marker plates. Again, here, when you're working on a project, we always advise, because there's usually a whole bulk of identification solutions that you have to install. We always recommend to do that with an embossing system. But if you're in the field and you're installing and you need a couple of more marker plates, this tool comes in very handy, because it also creates a marker plates depending on the material that you want, and you can manually emboss the information on the marker plate. The only downside, of course, is that you can only emboss on one line. So if you look at the embossing system, you can do up to 3 lines. Depending on the height of the character, you can do up to 18 or 26 characters on one line. With this tool, of course, you're limited to only one line. And this is the embossing system. So it used to be a portable system. It's no more, because it's about 80 kilo. But this allows you to do these marker plates in a very fast way, so that you can make sure that the information is on there is permanent. Combine it with a stainless steel cable tie, and you can make sure that the cable is identified until eternity, as I should say. There's a huge variety. This is also a big advantage. There's a huge variety of different marker plates that you can use with this machine. It all comes down to what is the amount of information that you need, the amount of characters on a marker plate, to make sure that all your information is on there. But maybe it's also very limited. You only need to use 8 characters, 10 characters, and only one line. but it can also be that you need to have a lot of characters on one marker plate, especially in the very big oil and gas refineries. There's usually a lot of information that needs to be on there. All the marker plates you see here can be made with our embossing system. Again, here there's an EasyMark software that comes with the embossing system that allows you to import data from Excel sheets directly into the embossing system so that you do not have to do this all manually. There's also a big margin for errors if you do it manually. So if you import data from an Excel sheet, you really eliminate.
So again, Henk, thank you very much for the presentation about cable cleats and our identification solutions. So as you've mentioned it, speaking about the cable cleats, these solutions have been developed in regards of the safety. I would say that cable cleats are aligned with the safety of the equipments, but also for the safety of the people who are working around these cables. Because in the videos you presented, we saw what impact a short circuit can have. And if you are close to such a cable at the moment where the short circuit occurs, you can be hurted. So why do I mention the safety of the equipment and the safety of the people? I will present you a certain number of solutions that the engineers of Panduit have developed to this topic of safety. And I will also link it to the efficiency, because in today's world, let me say it that way, efficiency is also something that is key in the market, because let me say in all the markets, and especially in the oil and gas market, we try to win as much time as possible and to be as efficient as possible. So to highlight these safety aspects and the risks that are in line with electrical equipments, you see this arc flash on the screen. Because as I've mentioned, you don't have only the equipment risks, but also risk related to the people who are working in electrical environments and in industrial environments. So how can I say, to confirm this statement, I present a certain number of figures here on the screen. So you can see that electrocution is the top 6 of the workplace fatalities. 166 people died in the US due to electrocution, and 93 of them from running equipments. You see that this data is data coming from the year 2019, but how can I say, the situation is very similar over the year 2020 and 2021. And I've mentioned these numbers are coming from the OSHA, who is a governmental committee in the US. Why US data? Because it's much easier to get the data from a large country like the US as to collect the different data in Europe or Middle East. But believe me, I went through a certain number of studies, and I can mention that the situation in our regions, in Europe and in Middle East, are similar to what I present here on the screen. So we see really that there are a lot of people who are injured by electrical accidents. And our engineers worked on that in order to develop a certain number of solutions. I will come to these solutions in the coming slides, but just also to mention an important part, because often we think about people who are injured, and I mentioned it earlier. So the employee safety is effectively a key element when it comes to implementation of LOTO solutions. But I would say, and I want to point these out here, it's not only the employee safety who is at risk. In case of accident, it can also generate financial and legal risks, Because if you or if the company don't apply the right safety products, the right LOTO solutions, you can get in trouble. And even outside of the financial and the legal risk, think also about the impact on the image that accidents can have on the brand, on the image of a company. So these are, let me say, hidden risks, hidden costs to just an electrical accident, where we are thinking about the employee safety as criteria number one. And please keep that as number one, because effectively the safety of the people is something that has not, you cannot fix a price on a employee's life. So, but it's just to mention also that there are other costs related to such kind of accidents. So to mitigate, let me say, these risks, or even to avoid such risks, our engineers developed a certain number of solutions. So really basic ones, like the one you see on the screen, but also, let me say, more advanced ones. I will come to that in future slides. So you can see it on the screen. We have solutions for electrical installation, but not only. We developed also solutions for pneumatic, hydraulic applications. So you see it here on the screen with these valve locking solutions. And we have developed also a certain number of, let me say, kits, lockout stations, so that you can secure all your installations in your factories. You see that this is true also for mechanical applications, with solutions like this one, that you can fit everywhere where you have a hole. So if you want more details about these solutions, you can reach out to Trident and we will be happy to support you. Also, just to inform you that you see some locking systems. Please be aware that we have such padlocks, and that we can also provide key settings to specific needs, to have a key ranking system to really give you the maximum safety in case of padlock series that you want to put and install in your factories. After the electrical safety, just a few words about also the network infrastructure solutions that we have when it comes to logout, tagout. In this case, we don't speak about people safety, but about your cyber security. You know that in the world we are living in, there are more and more intrusions. People would try to get access to your data, to install a virus, or to export data in order to be able to have a look to it. So please be aware that we have also such solutions like the ones you see on the screen to block the access to a USB connector, or to block in or lock in or block out RG45 connectors. So I think this is something that is more and more crucial in the industrial world, especially, let me say, in some strategic markets like oil and gas. We hear with what's happening between Russia and Ukraine, how oil and gas is important today, and how people try to intrude into such systems. So cybersecurity and taking in consideration the risk of intrusion should also be, let me say, a key aspect of the safety when you think about safety. These are, let me say, basic mechanic solutions to improve the safety for your people or your network. Let me move to, let me say, a more advanced solution and introduce you to VeriSafe with the absence of voltage tester that have been developed by Panduit. As you can see from the awards displayed on the screen, this product received really an incredible reception from the market when it was launched in the US in 2017, 2018. So it's really a very nice and disruptive product. It was seen as a disruptive solution in 2018 when we launched the solution, and it's still a disruptive solution on the market. So perhaps you are asking yourself, why is he talking about disruptive? So it's really because VeriSafe is, how can I say, a different solution from what you find in the market to make an absence of voltage testing. Why? Because VeriSafe eliminates the risk for the users to be in contact with hazardous voltage when performing the absence of voltage test. Let me explain it. I hope you can see my screen. When you use a standard handheld portable tester, I will come to that in my next slide, you have to open the door of the equipment and you are exposed to the electrical risk. When you use VeriSafe, you are not facing the same situation because you see the faceplate here is outside of the enclosure and you will use the button here to run the test. So you don't have to open the door of the control panel of the equipment to run the test. That means that you are not exposed to risk before doing the absence of voltage test. You see also that you have a visual information, like when you are driving your car. When it's green, you are safe. You can drive your car, you can cross the roads. In this case, if you have the green light, you can be sure that the absence of voltage is confirmed by the tester. But if you have these red lights show that you have presence of voltage. So it's really a very nice, very effective solution. Why do I speak about an effective and efficient solution? Let me come to this slide. The sequence at the top shows the process when you use a portable tester. I will name it, let me say, the traditional method. To do that, before starting to open the panel, you will notice that you will have to select the tester, but also to select the protective equipment that you will have to wear before opening the panel. So this takes a certain time. You have to wear this PPE equipment, select the tester, put it in the right configuration, then open the panel. And just to remember it, in this case, you are exposed to hazards. Then you see the full process that you have to go through. You have to verify the tester. You have to test for absence of voltage, but not just on one phase. You have to do it on 3 phases, on earth, on the neutral if needed. You have to verify the tester again. So to make a long story short, let me say that it will take you something like 10 to 20 minutes to run the full process from the start of selecting, taking the tester, the PPE, to getting the confirmation of the absence of voltage. If you use VeriSafe, which is a unique solution in the market, as mentioned, the solution is installed inside the control panel. You see it here on the picture. You don't need to wear a PPE equipment because you are not exposed to hazards. So you just have to push the button here, and then the VeriSafe will run the test automatically. And you will see that it's a very similar test than the one you do manually. But this test is done before you open the panel. And when you open the panel, you will open it when you get the green light to be sure that you are not exposed to hazards and that there is no remaining power into the panel. This takes less than 10 seconds. So VeriSafe does not only increase the safety by eliminating the risk of being in contact with voltage, but the solution improves also the efficiency of the test, moving from, let me say, 10 minutes to 10 seconds. So in today's world, that's a very interesting time saving. I've mentioned VeriSafe is testing for the absence of voltage. So to give you a more accurate overview of everything that is tested during the process, let me give you some additional information here. So when you push the button, the system will confirm that he has power to perform the test. Sorry. So I will not enter into the details, but in this case, you will have a battery which is inside this device who will deliver the power to make the test. Then VeriSafe will test itself, check all the electrical circuit elements to see that the system is able to run the test. He will also verify the threshold, which is around below 3 volt, just for your information. He will check on known voltage sources that all is as it should be. It will verify the connectivity between the sensor leads and the power cables to be sure that the connection between the device and the power cables is as it should be. So to really be in a totally safe environment. And then he will test for the threshold under these famous 3 volts I mentioned earlier. And when all these steps performs well, you will get the green light on the indicator. So to show you the different indications that you can face on the indicator model when you use VeriSafe, you have these, let me say, is the most common way you will see VeriSafe, because here the 3 LEDs are red and showing that voltage is present. In case you put the switch on off, or if something happened inside the control panel, you can have the second indication on the model. No LED is highlighted. Not the green one, not the red ones. This does not mean that the absence of voltage is confirmed. It's just that the 3 phases are not under power, or let me say it that way. Then to run the test, you will have to initiate the test by pushing this button here. The system will run, will run these different tests and get back with a green light. That's the most common case. All is safe. You can open the door. You are in a safe environment. If something happens during these tests, for example, if the connectivity is not confirmed as good, you will not get the green light, but you will have here a flashing orange light. Again, like when you drive your car, you see the orange light. It means take care. You are perhaps at risk. You need to make additional investigations. But this happens in a very few cases. So in most of the cases, you will get the green light. If you get the orange light, it means take care. I need to make additional tests or checking for something that is going wrong inside the panel or the equipment. So I've mentioned it, it's a disruptive solution. So why should I trust in a solution like VeriSafe? And you see here a certain number of things who highlight the quality of VeriSafe, because VeriSafe provides reliable results. Every test, when it goes to the green light, confirms the absence of voltage. The system gives you a result in a fraction of the time if you compare it to the portable handheld tester. I mentioned 10 seconds compared to 10 minutes. Also, something that is very important to know, due to the fact that the process is automated and simplified, you reduce the risk of human errors. I don't know if you remember the first slide I present with the numbers, with the figures regarding the number of accidents. Just a short story behind these. During the survey, the people who made the survey discovered that most of the people who had an electrical accident didn't follow the full process or made some, let me say, errors during the process of testing with a handheld device. With VeriSafe, you reduce these error humans close to zero, let me say. So it's also one of the reasons why VeriSafe has been added by the UL to the how can I say, agreed testing devices to test and confirm the absence of voltage. This change to the UL has been done in 2017 due to the fact that Panduit brought these new disruptive solution to the market. So if you search for an efficient and safe solution to confirm absence of voltage in your equipment, I would really recommend VeriSafe as the best solution for you. And also the rest of our LOTO, logout tagout solutions for all the safety around the electrical and fluid applications. Let me just provide a quick view at Panduit, because I don't know if you if all of you know Panduit. So I will really give you a short introduction to Panduit. You are perhaps, the ones who know us are perhaps aware that Panduit is still a family-owned company with more than 60 years of experience in the electrical infrastructure market. So we have a lot of experience in the market, and our engineering team has a lot of knowledge and put them inside the development of the new solutions. You saw it at the beginning with the cable cleats that Henk presented you, also through the identification solutions, and also with VeriSafe, which is really, I mention it again, a disruptive solution in the market. So all these knowledge, these 60 years of experience are put into the development of our products. So I will not go through all the data you see here on the screen. The only point I would like to highlight is that as we are a privately held company, we have, let me say, the freedom to make the decisions that meet our customer needs. So our business model is a little bit different, let me say, from others in the market. And we are really focused on earning customer preference. And our commitment is really to cultivate, let me say, the long-term relationship, partnership with our customers and our partners to really deliver long-term business values. So that's something that is key in today's world. Please keep that in mind and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need, let me say, dedicated solutions, we will be happy to look into that. Just for your information, it's not directly related to oil and gas, but more on the heavy duty and the electrical vehicle market. We are conducting a lot of VOCs in order to develop new solutions for these markets. So if you see new development potentials for new solutions in the oil and gas market, don't hesitate to contact Trident and to contact us, and we will be happy to support these kind of developments. Just a few words to present you our other solutions in addition to the ones we presented earlier. We have, let me say, in addition to the permanent identification solutions that Henk presented earlier, we have really a large offering when it comes to identification, including desktop printers, handheld printers, let me say, industrial nylon, plastic, polyamide, polyamide labels. So if you need identification solutions, feel free to think about Panduit. You see also that we have wiring duct solutions, we have abrasion protection solutions. We will present these solutions in future webinars, so do not hesitate to join our next sessions, the next Trident Academy sessions, in which we will deliver more information on these additional solutions. The same is true for our Connect offering, in which you will find power connectors, terminals, and ferrules, as well the loose pieces, but also the tools to put them in place, hand tools, semi-automatic or fully automated systems. And the third one, which is related to bundling, will include solution products like cable ties, mounts, installation tools, and even solutions like a PAT system, which is an automated cable tie installation system, which allows you to install a cable tie on a harness in, let me say, less than 1 second. So it brings us back to the efficiency I've mentioned earlier in my presentation. So this was my last slide. So thank you for your attention. And I hand over to the Trident team to see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Fred and Henk, for the very informative session. We have a couple of questions here. The first one of them is, outside of the permanent identification solution, do you have also other ID solutions?
Very interesting question. Yeah, I covered a little bit at the end. Henk, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
Please, Fred.
Thank you, Henk. So as I've mentioned in the overview, Panduit has a large number of solutions when it comes to identification, because we presented today our permanent identification solutions, including the labels, the cable ties, the PS system, and the handheld embossing solution, the MEHT. So this is really related to harsh environment identification. But in our offering, we have desktop printers, we have portable printers with 2 new ones who will be launched very soon, who offer the possibility to the customers to really find all the solutions they need to identify their cables, as well in harsh environment with the stainless steel solutions, but also with nylon or let me say plastic labels when it comes to, how can I say, identification in non-harsh environment applications. But yes, we have all you need. We have also the software. Henk mentioned it because it's delivered through with the PS 400. If you in the audience, you want to have a look on our possibilities when it comes to the software, you can download a 90-day free trial version directly from the Panduit website. You will not be able to print, but you will be able to play with the software and discover more all the features of the software, and inside the software you will see also the type of printers you can print with, and also all the labels we are offering. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. Does VeriSafe include connectivity options?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think someone has a look in the future. So yeah, that's a really good question. So what I presented today is VeriSafe, and it's still the version that have been launched in 2018. But with the high success that we had in the market with VeriSafe, our engineering team is still putting a lot of energy in developing a new solution. And let me say, without going too deep, I can mention that we will launch in 2022 the second version, a new version of VeriSafe. So the VeriSafe 1.0, the first version, will still stay in the market, but we will launch a new version, 2.0, who will offer connectivity possibilities. It's not the case for VeriSafe 1.0, but the new one will have an option that you can use to get data outside of VeriSafe, and so get connectivity options.
Thank you. And one more last question. In case I have 2 or more power entries in one cabinet, can I use one VeriSafe to do, or do I need multiple ones?
That's great question. So VeriSafe, each device of VeriSafe is here to test one single entry point, a DC entry or an AC entry, a single phase or a 3-phase entry, but just one. That means that if you have multiple power entries in a machine or in a control panel, you will have to install one VeriSafe on each entry, because you can only test one power entry with one VeriSafe device. We experienced that in the market. I don't have the picture here, but on some panels you can find 3 or 4 different VeriSafe, each one testing one power entry cables. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. I believe we came to an end to the questions. I'd like to thank you again, Fred and Henk. I hope you all enjoyed today's presentation and it has expanded your knowledge. If you have any further questions, please reach out to info@itrident.com. Once again, thank you all for attending today's webinar. We wish you a pleasant day ahead and are looking forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.